Rusty Keeler is a natural playscape designer and author who for nearly 30 years has traveled the world designing outdoor play environments and speaking about the benefits and beauty of saying yes to children's play. Described as a cross between Mr. Rogers and Jerry Garcia, Rusty is the author of multiple books on play and playscapes, including the upcoming book, Adventures in Risky Play. What is your yes? He is the co-founder of the social justice initiative called the Just Play Project in Ithaca, New York, which works to support all children's right to play. With Rusty's support, the city of Ithaca declared itself America's first free-range kids city. Rusty, welcome and thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. I can't see you, but I know you're out there, right? All right. Well, I'm really glad to be here with you and honored and happy to be a part of this webinar workshop series. And I just want you all to know first as we're starting, I just want to say thank you to all of you for the work that you do. And this is a very strange time and a tough time, and we're all experiencing it in different ways. And I think there's a lot of you out there that are missing children, missing being around children every day. So I'll have some pictures that we can look at children playing. But I also want to let you know, and so many of us knew this already, of how vital you are and the work that you do, how vital it is to children, to parents, to communities, and to businesses, and to your state and your country. I mean, I think that's what's really kind of one of the big things that's coming out of this, is really how essential the work that you do with young children is. And our countries, they can't run without you. So it's giving a lot of people a lot to think about going forward, and how can government support you and this profession of early childhood education. So again, thanks for all you do. It's not easy work, and especially now, it's not easy work, because what are we doing? And I know that some of you have been working through all this, and it probably in a very different way. Some of you are waiting to work. Some of you are getting ready to go back. And as you all kind of get ready to go back, the big question is, what are we going back to? What are you going back to? What's it going to be like? I mean, ultimately, we're going to get to all the sweet spots that we know and love. But the beginning's going to be a little bit weird. There's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of things to follow, so that we can just make sure everybody's safe, make sure that you're safe, make sure the kids are safe, and families are safe, and businesses are safe. So I thought today would be a good opportunity to just kind of look at, like, well, what are some options as we go forward? And I know one of the big things of CDC and a lot of states, and I've been talking to a lot of kind of statewide regulators and licensors, and they all agree. Going outside is probably one of the best things to do, and staying outside with your children, one of the best things to do during this time. Less cooped up space, better air, fresh air, and more room. So if we have to be dividing up classrooms and all that kind of stuff. So what can we do outside? And that's kind of what I put together here, of thinking about, there's talk of, like, if you have playground equipment, it's got to get sprayed off, or kids can't use the playground equipment. And if we think about our outdoor space just as playground equipment, that feels like a big loss. But if we think about the outdoor space as an entire environment and an extension of your classroom, if you think of it as an outdoor classroom, where you can do everything out there, I would say Don't even go inside. Just do everything outside. You can have snack outside. You can have naps outside. You can do art outside. You bring tables, bring water tables, sensory tables, whatever you are going to be feeling comfortable using and cleaning, take it outside. I love this idea. You know, we think about Scandinavian countries, forest schools where kids are outside all the time. Some of the first early childhood guidelines in Norway said that children should never be indoors for more than 2 hours a day. Maybe some of you agree with that. Maybe some of you believe that too. But I think in this time, maybe that's a good rule of thumb. Maybe we don't stay inside, we stay outside. And so I'm going to show. I got a lot of pictures. I'm all excited to show you. But first, as adults, when we start to remember what we want to do for children and think about the spaces we want to provide and the opportunities and the materials, it's good to remember back to our own childhoods. So a quick show of hands that I can't see. Who here was a child once? Oh, okay. I bet all of you. So let's take 1 minute here and think back to your favorite outdoor space that you played. Where did you play? And we'll we'll write in the chat room, but first think about it for a sec. Just take a minute here. And what was your favorite place that you played outside? And when we start to think about natural playgrounds and nature play, we talk about multi-sensory experiences. So when you think back to your favorite place that you played, maybe it was after school, maybe it was on weekends or summer vacation, or you played in different places in different seasons, think about all the sensory experiences that were there. What did it look like? But what did it smell like? Sound like? Feel like? Taste like? Did you do things your mother know about? Okay, and then why don't you just quick jot something in the chat box here. We'll give you a minute while I sing the theme to Jeopardy. No, just kidding. I won't do that. Maybe I will. Do, 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 do. Actually, this is kind of nice. I can't see you cringing at my singing voice.
People are talking about being in the woods with the creek behind their house. We had a neighborhood place we called the Jungle, and it was amazing.
Ooh. Okay. Well, a lot of these experiences, this is good for us to remember back what was important to us, so that when we're providing opportunities for children today, we remember, oh yeah, it wasn't necessarily that piece of fixed playground equipment. It was the fields behind my house, the ditch, the backyard, the sidewalk. And so as we're trying to recreate children's environments now in COVID-19 era, we can remember back to like the things that were really important to us, and then we can start to do that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start going through pictures here. If you know about my work, I design natural play spaces. It's kind of what my designs look like. Hills and pathways and hill slides and loose parts area. This place has sheep. And doing these natural play environments. Again, hills and pathways and trees and plantings and mess. So natural playgrounds. And then I went to the next level of adventure playgrounds with totally crazy, risky play opportunities for children. This is at the Hands on Nature Anarchy Zone in Ithaca, New York. And so this idea of loose parts and child-directed play, how can we just continually say yes to children's play, even if it's risky, even if it makes us feel a little uncomfortable? How can we start to feel more comfortable feeling uncomfortable, because we know that risk is important for children, because it's taking things to the next level. It's them learning to keep themselves safe, making choices of what they want to do and what they don't want to do, and that ultimately keeps kids safer in the long run. So my whole new book is all about, we'll get to that later. But right now, when we think about safety, we're thinking a lot about this, right? You've probably been going through this. If you're a director, certainly you're knee deep in it. If you're a caregiver, you've probably been made aware of a lot of this stuff. So we're just going to go through this point by point. I'm going to read it to you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to just show pictures. I'm just showing pictures. But basically, you know, there's a lot of cleaning and there's a lot of, you know, size of groups and everything. But a lot of it will be boiling down to, what can you do outside? How can you keep it safe? How can you keep it clean? And also, I'm just going to be throwing a lot of ideas out to you. And so this is just food for thought. Some of these may work great for you, but others, it's all about your center, your culture of play, and also your strategies for the COVID-19 time. So you take what you think will work for you and your group and your center. But what might work for a lot of you is going outside. And how can you bring tables outside for activities in your small groups? How can you start to have snack outside, eating outside? You know, whether you're thinking about keeping everybody socially distanced, or if you're pods of kids, you're thinking, okay, we're just going to be together. We're not mixing with other people and other classes, so we're together as our group. So maybe there's ways that you can eat outside. And you can have tables and you can be doing your art things. Things that you would normally be doing inside, take it outside. You notice a theme here? There's a theme here. Okay. This isn't necessarily my idea of the best play space for kids. But if you have something like this and you can't use the equipment, what do you do? It's tough. Now, I'm like, okay, wait, this is designed for kids and it's proper, you know, safety, spacing, and all that. But it's lacking kind of the oomph, the good stuff, the stuff that you might remember from your childhood. I'd say, like, get outside that fence to the grass. You know, you're yearning to get to that grass. And same with this, right? This is some adult's idea of what kids would want to do. And it's okay. It does what it's made to do, but it doesn't have the richness, the complexity that you want for your classroom, but that's changing every day, and then we want for our outdoor spaces. So even if you have something like this, and say you can't use that, or you got to squirt down your play equipment, think about the space behind that green grassy strip. What can you do? How can you bring loose parts? How can you use that fence back there for art, chalk, painting, all that kind of stuff? You can still funk it up, even if you have something that's kind of a little bit plain like this. Now, my kind of play space, what I love is this kind of thing, where it is just loose parts and adults saying yes. Keeping an eye on things, making sure kids don't get hurt, but just giving them possibilities. And so it's not about the equipment, it's about the possibilities. In a place like this that is just so rich, there's just so much going on here. It's crazy, it's wild, like a jungle, like a forest, but also like a real kid habitat. If any of you are in the Play Empowers group on Facebook with Keisha Reed, this is her place, Discovery Center. I love it. Has she ever mowed her lawn? No. Is it awesome? Yes. Is it different than this? Yes. Which do you think a kid would be most attracted to, or whose play would be most sustained? Who would have the longest amount of play going on, here or here? I mean, this will be fun for the beginning. Certainly fun to get underneath that thing, but in the long run, We want stuff that's rich and diverse. And so we want spaces that are saying yes to the seasons and yes to having tools where kids can dig, yes to even like rotted logs, fallen trees, fallen logs, yes to chickens. How many of you have chickens? All my favorite childcare centers all have chickens. Okay, so what are some things you can do this summer? How about sunflowers? And I say, make this the year you go crazy with sunflowers. Just do it. This is the year. You can buy sunflowers seeds in packs for like $2 or $3. But here's a secret: you can buy bird seed sunflower seeds in big huge bags for like $9 or $10, and you get like 10,000 seeds. So I would say, let this be the year you go crazy with sunflowers, and don't just plant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just go crazy. Kids can dig holes, plant sunflowers, put them everywhere. You know, there's going to be some that don't survive. So just go crazy, plant them, and then you can have fun and think about, can you plant them, make a sunflower house? I mean, think about this. What if all of Ohio suddenly was like the sunflower capital of America, sunflower house capital of America? So here you just dig a circle, plant the seeds, let them grow up, put tons of them in. Maybe you have to protect them when the kids are towering over the sunflower seeds, but then soon they tower over the kids. Then they burst into bloom, and then those are seeds, and then it's a bird feeder. They're natural bird feeders as the season wears on. And then when the frost hits in the fall, they're all brown and crunchy, and they're still interesting. And then those stalks can be used for play, and the heads can be used for play, and it's still an interesting space to go into. So I say, let this be the year you go crazy with sunflowers. We know hand washing is a big thing now. It's going to be big for your kids. So you're going to get in new habits. You probably have been doing lots of hand washing, but this will be a new era of it. So think about, well, how can you take that outside? Now here's a center, a lucky center, one of the lucky centers that has a kind of sink and hand washing station and plumbing outside. But we can't all just suddenly like do plumbing things. Maybe some of you can, and maybe there's renovations you're doing, but maybe you have some hoses. Maybe you have a hose hookup, and maybe you can put on a coupler like this that lets you do multiple things with your hoses. And so you can have hoses that are for play, like this guy's, you know, filling his sand bucket mud kitchen thing. But then you can have hoses that go to buckets, and you can have hand wash stations, and you can have 5-gallon buckets, and you can have things set up so that right there outside, maybe you have a constant hand washing, you know, as needed. So just think about like, okay, buying some of this simple stuff that doesn't cost too much money at hardware stores and make some hand wash stations. Okay. COVID-19. Chalk. Again, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. So forgive me. I'm just reflecting back some ideas that you know and that you believe in, that you love. But make this the year you go crazy with sidewalk chalk, right? You do sidewalk chalk, but instead of just buying a little bit, why don't you just buy like an insane amount? Ask for donations and just go crazy with it. Chalk everything, every fence, chalk the building, chalk sidewalks, chalk, crush it up, make chalk paint, the whole deal. Just do it. Everybody gets their own huge box of, every kid gets their own, if that's what you have to do to separate things out. That depends on your center, but go crazy with sidewalk chalk. Google sidewalk chalk and you see like a million fun things going on. Not that you need any new ideas with sidewalk chalk, you're the pros, but there's fun ideas there. You see what people are doing, so there's definitely endless possibilities with it. So make this the year you go crazy with sidewalk Squirt bottles. How about that? Squirt everything. Put sidewalk chalk and water, crushed out in here and squirt. Put food coloring in water. Squirt. And squirt bottles. And then here someone put vinegar in there and made it all foam up. So yes, you guessed it. Make this the year you go crazy with squirt bottles. Right? Google that. Squirt bottles plus food coloring plus kids, and you see a million fun projects and ideas and things that people are doing. Cardboard boxes. Okay, I'm starting out with all the simple things here. So what do we got time-wise? Oh, we're doing good. Cardboard boxes. They can be anything, the classic story of a kid getting a present in a box, and they use the present, the toy, for a little bit, but they really love the box. And it's why? Because it has endless possibilities. It can be anything at any time. And again, with COVID-19 time, just get lots of them. I think you know what I'm going to say here. Go crazy with cardboard boxes. You get them, you use them, you knock them down, you recycle them. Get some more. When they're done, recycle them. Get some more. You can get them at furniture stores, appliance stores, Best Buy, all those kind of places. They get all their stuff boxed, and then they have to get rid of it. They recycle. So there's tons of cardboard boxes you can get out there. You can improve, like kids can improve their fixed playground equipment with cardboard and loose parts. That's fun. So of course, make this the year you go crazy with cardboard boxes to your comfort zone, your comfort level. Okay, some other ideas, simple ideas that have nothing to do with fixed equipment. Hole digging. Here's my 2 young sons. This was early this spring. Shovels. I'd say get some shovels this year. Get some shovels, find some spots that are okay. I mean, we all have sandboxes and digging areas, but maybe this is the year. I'm going to lay off on the going crazy. You just know, this is the year. You just have holes, dig holes. See if you have the biggest hole that you can dig. In fact, let's have a hole digging challenge. Get shovels, find some places. Say yes to places that you would never say yes before. And actually, I think that's one of the things about the whole COVID-19 time is that, it's a time of change. And times of change give us the opportunity to change things for the better. So maybe there's things that you want to do. Maybe you want to spend more time outside. Now's the opportunity to do it. Maybe you want to do a little more rough and tumble, weird things outside, like hole digging. Well, now's the time to do it. So the hole digging challenge, I'm putting it out to you. Let your kids dig holes. Let them dig huge holes. Let them dig multiple holes. You watch out for tripping. You'll be the one that has to watch out the most. And send me pictures. I'll post them. I'll put them up. Yeah. So shovels, holes. Okay. Going through some other just simple ideas. Again, you take what you think will work with you, with your group. Maybe not all of them will, but some of them will, depending on the new reality here. But straw bales. Okay, so I'm now into, instead of fixed playground equipment that can only do those few things that it's designed to do, I like this open-endedness of all these loose parts and everything. So straw bales, they can be moved, they can be changed, they can create spaces, they can create places. But here they are in different, is there somebody in there? There's like a little fort. Oh, all those kids were in that thing? That's pretty fun. And then they get dragged around. and you just keep dragging them around and using them in different ways. And then when they're all kind of mushed and smushed, you can sprinkle it out. You can put it on garden beds. You can put it down as a surface. You can put it over your wood chips. You can put it over dirt spots. You could take straw bales, break them apart, and fill all your holes. Make all these nests in the ground with all those holes that you're all going to be digging. Okay, now they're just simple. I'm trying to give like simple, inexpensive ideas here. Stumps. Maybe you can get stumps from city forester or tree service places in the towns where you live. They have to take all their trees. When they cut down a tree, they have to take it somewhere and probably pay to dispose of it. Or a city has to like chop it all up into wood chips. But if you let them know you're looking for it, or if a tree falls down in your neighborhood, ask the owner, hey, could we come in? You probably know somebody that has a chainsaw. Maybe you have a chainsaw. Or you can put a call out to the chainsaw fairies, and they'll come and help you chainsaw stuff up. In Ithaca, we worked with the city forester, and they have what they call like the tree graveyard when they take trees down. So here we worked with some parents. No, we worked with parents, and then we worked with this in Ithaca. There's Cornell University, and it was like the agriculture fraternity. Big strong lads came and lifted logs, brought it to the playground, and this is a little static looking, but here you can use them in all different kinds of ways. Stumps for seating, stumps for rolling, stumps for snacking on, stumps for balancing on. Okay, fairy huts. I'm sure you all, again, I'm just repeating all the things that you do. I know I learned this from all of you, but now's a good time to do fairy huts. And what natural materials can you already have in your yard? Sticks and leaves and nuts and pine cones and that kind of stuff. Or what could you bring in for your kids and just have lots of stuff on hand? And you can get into it too. I know that you like fairy hut building. Look at that little table set for two. How
Rusty,
cute is that?
Rusty, can you hear me, Rusty?
Yes.
This is Kim.
Yes, I can.
This is Kim, and I wouldn't normally interrupt, but there's so many questions around this that I think some people may be having a hard time getting the wealth of what you're sharing because of the distraction of so many people being concerned with looks great, but how do I do all this great stuff and still accommodate licensing rules? So within that is also the question of how do we become better advocates for play and the type of things that you're sharing. So a lot of people are saying love, love, love. I'm worried about licensing. Love, love, love. So just if you could give a brief response to that so they could refocus on, some of the opportunities that you are sharing.
Okay. If we look at this picture, I think licensing would be okay with this, right? So it's important to think we start small. We dream big, and then we start small, incremental steps. And I guess there's the question of it, licensing for the COVID-19 stuff, cleanliness and safety and health, that kind of thing, or just the standard everyday worried about your licensor kind of giving you the stink eye when you try some more risky things. That's totally understandable because, we've all heard stories, and licensors sometimes have a different viewpoint on what it is that we are doing. They may see just the possibility of injuries where we see the possibilities for play and for healthy development and for healthy risk taking. With my new book, I spend a lot of time talking to kind of licensors at the highest level, state level and national level, to get their feedback. I have some interviews with them in the book. And at the top level, they all agree that risk taking is important for children. It's how they learn the edge. Risk taking is really just children doing what they're naturally meant to do. Take the next step. Infants to crawl, toddlers want to walk, and on and on. Preschoolers want to climb, school agers want to, do riskier things. Teenagers, want to take it to all those teenage levels. But it's important that children learn themselves what they want to do, what risks they want to do, and not just have adults. I'll just speak a little bit of this. Not just have adults be the ones who are saying yes and no. We want to keep kids safe. That's the number one thing. But what we also want to do is keep kids safe in the long run, and that is by giving them the opportunity to come in contact with risk and learn inside themselves with your help around the outside to how to say yes and how to say no. And so what you can do with your licensor, I'm not showing like, I don't know, insane things, but you might think that a licensor would think is insane. But what your job as an adult then is to communicate with your licensor. And really it's the directors. And really it's you as a center coming to consensus and having conversations about your rules, about your values. And again, I think during this time of change, I think a lot of people are thinking it's really important for children to have opportunities and opportunities for play. So I think there's going to be a little more leeway, but it's important for you as a group to come to new ideas about safety and risk and all this. Another important point is the difference between a hazard and a risk. A risk is something a child can choose. Say that fallen log or a log. A child can say, oh, I can get on that log and I can choose if I want to jump off or not. And I know that I could get hurt, so I will choose to not do it. Or I'll choose to do it and I know what's going to happen. So that's a risk. A child can choose the risk. A hazard is something that could happen to them, that they could get them, and they don't see it, they don't choose it. Like a chunk of rebar or concrete under a swing set, or broken glass on the playground, or all these things that could really hurt a kid because they're not choosing. I'm not choosing for my head to hit concrete. And so the hazard is what it's up to us as the adults to make sure there aren't hazards. And so that's part of your daily playground safety check in the morning and maybe at night. So you want to remove all hazards, and this is what the licensors at the highest level agree, but that risk is important. So that's the first thing, to make that distinction. And so it's also our job as adults to do the boring work of communicating our mindfulness around this stuff to our licensors, to our regulators. We do the boring stuff as adults so that kids can do the fun stuff, the stuff that we really believe in. So part of that is communicating why that you're mindful about this stuff, and that, say, making that distinction with people between hazard and risk. It's also doing risk-benefit analysis. Now this is my own new book, this is my whole new kind of love in life and thinking about risky play. So maybe we can set up another session where I can come back and we can really dig into the risky play stuff. But risk-benefit analysis. And this is what licensors at the highest level say that providers can do to show that they're basically being mindful about some of this risk stuff. Jumping off of a straw bale, jumping off of a log. Risk benefit. It used to be that we just looked at risks. You could poke your eye out, you could fall off that log, you could break your elbow, and then you just say no, because you don't want any of that stuff to happen. We want to keep kids safe. But what the new norm is doing risk benefit analysis. So you still look at all those things that could happen, poking your eye out and getting a splinter and breaking your collarbone, depending on what the action is. Make a list of that stuff. But you don't just make the list of the bad stuff, you make a list of the good stuff. And you say, what are the benefits of this? What are the benefits of that log? Oh, balance, good body movement, choice, self-esteem, physical, you make the list, and then you look at the risks and you look at the benefits. And people are really writing this all down in a chart, because later you're going to show this to your licensor and parents, and you say, because you want to prove that you thought it through. So that's the thing. Again, as the adults, we're doing the boring work of showing that we are mindful about this stuff. We didn't just, oh, I didn't realize there was a big boulder on the playground. That's kind of what licensors used to think. Oh, they don't realize there's a fallen log on their playground. No, now it's our job as the adults to show, no, we know there's a fallen log on there, and we've thought it through. We've looked at the risks, we've looked at the benefits, and then the last thing is, what's the management? How are you managing that so that there's no injuries, or less injuries? You limit the injuries. And it could be, we cut off any eye-poking things on that fallen log, any branches, or we check for splinters, or we make sure there's no broken glass, or there's nothing hard that a kid could fall into, or we put safety surface around it like it was a playground, all this kind of stuff. Because so what you're doing is showing the licensor that you are mindful, that you're thinking this stuff through, and that you have reasons. And so when you look at the risks, I'll wrap it up here. You look at the risks, you look at the benefits, and then you think, do the risks outweigh the benefits, or do the benefits outweigh the risks? When you look at all the good things that fallen log is doing for children, or the opportunities for children, that's where you find your yes. And that's what's important here. You find your yes. And then you can run this risk benefit analysis. You talk to your other teachers, you talk with your directors, you talk as a center, and then you fill this stuff out, throw it in the 3-ring binder, and you have it on file, and then you can show. Or you just do fairy huts, or you just go crazy with sunflowers and sidewalk chalk. Okay, I hope that helped a little bit. Here's another idea. Where can you take kids? Where are some places outside your playground that you can go? Do you have a lot next door? Do you have more land at your center that you can just go to, that you can spread out to, that you've never used before, outside your fence? Field trip outside your fence? Are there creeks? Are there ditches? Are there vacant lots? Are there neighbors' land that you could talk to them about? You know, we're getting creative here, so we're thinking, okay, we're going to where else can we go? All right, I'm going to go through loose parts and everything. Also, when I show the pictures of some of those wilder early childhood centers where you might have typed in, we have to do with licensor. They're all licensed childcare centers. They all work with their licensors on that stuff. Their licensors know that they're being mindful. And that's the thing. It's like, not so great early childhood center could look like it's filled with junk. But if people aren't mindful about it. But if the provider, if you are putting loose stuff out there and you're mindfully doing it, in some ways it almost looks the same as the person who's not, except you're aware of it and you're watching and you have a plan and you have management ideas about how to take care of all this stuff. And that's what you need to communicate with your licensor. So it's not just like, oh, they come in and they're like, you can, even with this, we're not using the kiddie pool for water. You can punch holes in it. We're using it for play. We're using it for different things. I can see all you nodding. I can imagine all of you nodding. Okay, loose parts. So the idea is loose parts is, it's kind of like inside. Kids using blocks, right? What's the beauty of blocks? They can be anything, and they can be different every single day, and it's a child's imagination. So what are weird things that you can put outside as loose parts that kids can build with? And the great thing about loose parts also is that it's fun to build with loose parts. It's fun to then play in whatever you built, like this. What is this, a spaceship, an army tank, a boat? Who knows? A safari? So it's fun to have the dramatic play around it, but then it's also fun to, like blocks, destroy it, right? So there's that whole cycle, creation and destruction. It's important for children to have access to all that, to be destroyers, to have control over what they build. Fixed playground equipment, they can't control that. They can't change it. But with loose parts, children, especially in this time, they need a little bit of opportunity. They need opportunities to control their environment, even little opportunities to build their own stuff. Chalk it up. And again, it's as far as loose parts, it's what you feel comfortable. You might not feel comfortable with a cinder block as your loose parts. Maybe you will. You get to choose. Maybe you want all just natural loose parts. Checking time here. And loose parts as physical fitness and balance apparatus. Okay, what if you just have, look at this, a little log chunk, and these guys are balancing on it. I mean, I know I'd fall on my face. Whoa, whoa, whoa. If I was doing this, well, that sets up some balance, and then other kids trying it too. It's all going to end by falling, but a kid knows that. They're choosing that. So there's the example of a kid choosing, I know that that thing's wobbly. I know I might fall off, but I'm choosing to do it. Whoop, balance, balance, balance. Oh, and he takes out his buddy. Again, it's what you feel comfortable with. And when you're trying some of this stuff where you're allowing a little bit more risk, you don't have to go all the way to like saws and hammers and nails and, you know, crazy stuff. Start small. It's really about just saying yes a little bit more to play, especially in this day and age. It's about giving yourself a break and giving kids a break. Just saying yes to play and supporting kids in that way and supporting yourself. So maybe you just start small with the cardboard boxes, with a straw bale. Mud kitchen. Mud kitchens. What is a mud kitchen? It's like a table with some beat up kitchen stuff on it. That one's pretty neat. It's got an old sink part of it, pallets. Maybe you could build something like this, I bet. You and your staff or your significant other. You probably have some beat up pots and pans at home in your kitchen that could get weeded out. And I'm sure you're probably already doing this. But I just thought I'd put it out there, right? Put it out there. And what if you planted the flowers right next to your mud kitchen? Because then that way, if we go back, then you get all the petals. That becomes a loose part. And so because this is the year that you go crazy with sunflowers, then sunflowers get to be a loose part for play. Licensor can't say no to sunflowers, right? Mud kitchen doesn't even need mud. I mean, look at this. Something happened here. Something was going on here. But when we stand back this is like the kids' view. When we stand back from the adults' view, I mean, really, it's a table with junk on it. Or it's a table with beautiful things on it. I mean, that could have been tea party for the Queen of England, right? In the child's imagination. So it doesn't take a lot to make a big difference in children's environments. And in this COVID time, do you need to scrub everything down afterwards? And then does that, you know, moderate what you put out there? Or is it just for your pod of kids? You have a mud kitchen for each group of 6 kids that you have, each group of 10 kids? Maybe. That's what you kind of work out those details. Yes, lots of different mud kitchen configurations. That's a pretty nice one somebody built. And they added the kitchen stuff. Plant. Look at this. People ask, like, what are good natural playground plants? This group planted kale. It's literally a kale forest. And Brussels sprouts. Kids running through a kale forest. I mean, licensing can't say anything about that, right? Except pass the kale. Let me nibble on that. And you think about the environment there compared to that environment. The old way of thinking and the way that licensors were trained was that this is a safe place for kids. You have the proper fall zone and all that kind of stuff. But we know there's more and that kids need more and you need more. I mean, we want it to be fun for you too, right? As an adult, is that fun? Maybe a little bit. But we want this to be a time for you to also be able to take deep breaths and have a beautiful, interesting, weird environment to be with kids in. Rain barrels. We can have a little messy anarchy zone. Teepee. Plantings. You can do water. Water your garden. This could be the year you go crazy with gardening. If you're going to be outside all day, you might as well, right? Just, you'll be out there. You'll be looking at those plants every day. Just, you can be caretaking with the kids. And bringing it outside, bringing it outside. Now I'll end on ice here. Here's ice in the summer. So this group had ice and salt that they put on it to like burn, melt holes and craters into it, and then food coloring. Super fun. So maybe you just do some freezing in your freezer at home. You make a little room and just some Tupperware or leftover plastic containers, just freeze water and food coloring or just water and bring it in. Or maybe you have a big refrigerator and freezer at school. Just start freezing stuff and putting it outside. You know, in the wintertime it's easy, but maybe you could do this. And wouldn't that be fun as we start June to make some ice sculptures and then just watch them melt, watch what happens. You can freeze toys inside too, the weird things, and watch what happens as it thaws. And now this is me. In the wintertime, I love doing this kind of stuff. I learned it from Canadians, right? Of course. So you freeze stuff, and then you can make weird things. So maybe you have room, if you have room for a 5-gallon bucket, maybe you have a deep freezer that has some room, or who knows what. But anyway, you could have fun with some ice here. That's a water balloon. Freeze water and some food coloring in a water balloon, and it does that. Wow. It's like high-end blown glass sculpture. Okay, I want to leave some room for questions here. So I am actually going to skip ahead. I am also going to do a book giveaway here. Book giveaway. Well, yeah, I got lots more to show you, but well, that's pretty good. We're going to get into questions here, but this is the book that's coming out this summer that really dives deep into the whole idea of risk and hazard and what we feel comfortable with and how, and gives you tools and tips to learn to say yes more while still keeping kids safe. But right now, I'm going to do a book giveaway of Seasons of Play. This is a look at 3 natural playscapes at home-based centers in Ithaca. I did a whole photo shoot 1 year in different seasons. So what you can do if you are not on your phone and you have your phone, you probably turned off your phone, as you should with the webinar, right? But if you do, go to earthplay.net if you want to sign up for my newsletter. So sign up for my newsletter, and in real time, as I answer some questions here in the next 10 minutes, I can check on emails who sign up, and I will mail you. I'll do 2 books. I'll mail you books. I'll email you to get your address, and I'll mail you books. So if you go to earthplay.net, there's a spot to sign up for the newsletter. Bing. And or over there. And I'll just end the slideshow with the idea that, again, it's a challenging time, and it's a time of change, and it's all going to feel a little weird and maybe even restrictive, but the more things that you can do to, like, take it easy, give yourself a break, give your children a break, and do some things maybe you've always wanted to try to do. It's a time of creativity. Everybody right now is being creative and adapting. So maybe make it a time where you can, really tap your creativity even more and do some different things, and keep it simple. If I showed some wilder things, you don't have to go that far now. Start with the sunflowers, start with the sidewalk chalk, start with the squirters, water squirters. Start with the hole digging and email me. Look, there's my email address, rusty@earthplay.net. I want to see those pictures of the holes. So I can answer some more questions. Is everyone still there?
Rusty, this is Kim. Can you hear me? Can you hear me,
Yes.
Rusty? Yes, all
Yes.
right. Great.
Yes.
Well, hey, you have a whole lot of people saying, pick me in the chat box.
Okay.
Want a copy of your book. But wow, I am not even in a program anymore. And I can't tell you how many times I found myself smiling throughout your presentation. And I'm sure so many other people there, this wasn't enough. People want to hear more. People want to discuss more. I'm very excited that there's a lot of chat of people wanting to connect with each other to find out how they can say yes.
Mm-hmm.
A few of the questions, and we could probably go on for another hour, but we don't have that much time.
Sure.
But one question that came up consistently, and you kind of touched on it a little towards the end, but most of the pictures were shown during spring or summertime. When you have multi-seasons, how do you adapt for the different seasons?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually just left out the winter stuff. I have tons of stuff about that. I was kind of focusing on like the getting geared back up and getting kids back at your program and kind of thinking the short term this summer. But yes, wintertime, the same thing. I was scheduled to do a winter to go to Canada and do a whole winter workshop of what to do outside, which is both funny because I learned from you Canadians. Now I'm Ithaca, New York, so we're up there too, like Ohio. A lot of you in Ohio, we get winter. So it's really one is there's no bad weather, just bad clothing, right? And so can you have the right clothing? That's probably the number one thing. And it's clothing for kids, so snowsuits and snow boots and hats and all that kind of stuff, and just drizzly, the same thing with rain pants and everything. And maybe you as providers can provide that. Maybe you can get things from Salvation Army or secondhand stores, so you're loaded up with what you need. Maybe you get hand-me-downs from parents, so you don't have to put it all on other parents. Maybe not everyone can afford snow pants, but that you just try to have all that stuff on hand, so there's no, unless it's really too cold, like dangerously too cold, you should be able to go out every day. And still, the Norwegians, 2 hours a day indoors, no more than 2 hours. So they're thinking about winter too, and they get big time winter. So it's clothes for the kids, but it's also clothes for you as the caregiver. Because often it comes down to the caregiver being like, I don't want to stand out in the cold. Well, it's a lot easier when you have proper snow pants too, right?
Yes, I remember that. Thank you.
Yeah. And then come on, how cute will you look? Will you all look wearing snow pants? We know.
That is true.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's okay. So that,
Another question we had was, how does this work with special needs children? Do you need additional accommodations for risky play, or how do you address that?
well, I think another thing with risky play and licensing is that you know your children. You know, a licensor coming in and just seeing your yard, they don't know your kids, but you do because you're with them every day. And you know their abilities, you know their challenges, you know what they did yesterday, you know what they did months ago, and you know where they're at now. So you can make those choices. And that's important to communicate with licensing too. But this isn't necessarily about licensing. It's I think all this stuff is really good for children with special needs. You know, multi-sensory opportunities, right?
Mhm.
So children who are kind of experiencing the world in different ways, whether it's physical or emotional or neurological, that this stuff is really perfect. You know, if you think about those stark playground equipment pictures I showed, that stuff can be used in certain ways, and a kid could fall off of that if they're not quite paying attention. Da da da. But when you have the sunflower houses, or when you have, you know, sidewalk chalk, or more plantings, or the gardening, or little hills, or the hole digging, it gives children with different abilities a way to explore the world. You know, that's like at the beach, all different kids can use the beach in different ways, or if you're in the woods, there's something for everybody. And the same goes for natural play spaces. So children with special needs, I mean, again, you know your children, but that this is really the kind of thing that if you talk to like people who are occupational therapists or physical therapists, and or that work with only children with special needs, these are the kind of environments they're trying to set up, like sensory rich, open-ended possibilities, environments that can be used in lots of different ways.
Mhm. That's great. How would you respond to lots of questions that questions parents may have, others may, coworkers may have, allergies, poison ivy, bees, mosquitoes, ticks, snakes. We can, go on and on. I mean, they're legitimate concerns.
Yeah,
So how do we balance that again with
yeah,
what we're trying to do in these spaces?
sure, yeah. Yeah, all that stuff's important to think about. Um, Also, all that stuff is real world. Those are real world issues that, as they grow, will make contact in the real world. And of course, your centers, your fenced-in areas of the real world too. But beyond that, and we want children. It's an opportunity. I'm more into play than teaching moments, but it's an opportunity to teach about what are the snakes that live in your area. I'm sure your centers have protocol for bee stings already. You know, a child can get stung by a bee, whether there's sunflowers or if it's only that playground equipment. You know, it's kind of worse if there's just equipment in places that they're building nests. So you know if a child is allergic, what you do. Do you have an EpiPen? Do you have all that kind of stuff on hand? So that hopefully that's stuff that you already have in place, that you can still be on your toes to react if it happens with natural playgrounds. What was the other? Poison ivy. Again, it's the opportunity to learn about this with children, to be on the lookout for poison ivy. I don't recommend planting poison ivy.
Let's keep with the kale forest, not poison ivy
That's right,
forest.
kale forests. But allergies, it's good to know this stuff already to know from parents and everything. Here's a interesting little story of how they do it in Australia. I was visiting over there a couple of years ago. I did a speaking tour, and I visited lots of centers. And of course, in Australia, there's poison everything over there, right? There's poison snakes, and there's poison bugs, and there's poison spiders, and you can get bit over there. But that does not keep, the thing that's interesting is does not keep the kids inside at childcare. No, they go outside probably more than we do. Maybe not as much as Norwegians, or Ohioans. So what I found fascinating was that they had, in the classroom, I saw all of the poison spiders, pictures of all the poison spiders in their area.
Wow.
You could identify, and the kids identified it. And it's the same way the kids love dinosaurs, right? And they know this dinosaur and that dinosaur, and that's just, they knew all their spiders, and they could identify them, and they knew what to do, and they learned about them, and it was part of their world. And when it comes to creating environments for children, we want them to be part of the world, and we want our environment to be a reflection of our world. And sometimes there's dangers, but we want to keep kids safe, especially babies and toddlers and stuff that can't identify this kind of stuff. But really, we want to create a small version of the greater world where you live in, and to work out what you need to work out for health and safety.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this webinar, I think I'm going to take advantage of speaking for the people who are on the webinar who don't have that choice. But early on in the webinar, and just a common theme throughout, was I wrote down in big words, he is so respectful. I just heard the respect for the early childhood educators from just the very beginning of you talking about the challenges of their job, but I wrote it down again when you talked about you need to decide what your culture of play is. You need to decide what's acceptable in your program. You need to decide what your COVID strategies are. And I just feel that often in these times when we have more and more standards coming at us, et cetera, and expectations, that sometimes that empowerment of the professional, who are the people on this call, is not always given the credit. And I just love the way you continually bring it back to thinking for themselves and what they know to be in the best interest of children. So I just feel like that was just a real gift you gave to all of us today, Rusty. I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
So,
I have utmost respect for all of you and the work that you do, and I'm very thankful for the work that you're doing.
all right.
And now I'm going to give two of you a book. You ready? It's a book giveaway, so I'm going to I have the real time here. They came in. I'm going to pick two emails here. S. Householder at NC State College.
One of my former coworkers. Woohoo!
Oh, there we go. And Crusherman86 at yahoo.com.
Okay.
So I will send